Welcome to Alternative Investments Chat,
where we demystify the world of alternative investments and financing for entrepreneurs and investors alike.
With these discussions, we hope you're more empowered to unlock opportunities in your business or portfolio. I'm Erin.
And I'm Erica. Let's get started.
Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to be expanding our knowledge into investing in alcohol as an alternative asset, specifically talking about vineyards, meaderies, and distilleries where alcohol is actually produced. So these actually qualify as tangible assets. We talked a little bit about tangible assets on the podcast before and how having something physical can be an attractive investment for folks. Some people are more inclined to do a physical asset as opposed to the stock market, which sometimes can just feel like numbers on a screen. Another reason why this might be an attractive investment option is the growth potentials. Let's look at distilleries, for example. Market size for distilleries in the US specifically is $19.2 billion in 2025.
Jeez.
Market size has had a steady growth over the past 5 years and is expected to continue to grow in the coming 5 years.
Wow, well, that's definitely an exciting investment opportunity if you ask me. And I'm actually very intrigued because, if you listen to the other episode, I love my alcohols.
Love wine.
Love my wines and my cocktails. Well, this is definitely an exciting investment opportunity, and I'm definitely intrigued, because right now all I'm thinking about is the last time I went wine tasting. In fact, I think I went during COVID. That was definitely an experience.
Yeah.
And I think I went once right after that. But they're so fun. I love touring wineries, and being so close to Napa was just
very convenient.
Too convenient. Look at my checkbook. No. So, but what's really cool about investing in a vineyard, for example, is that there are multiple streams of revenue coming in. I think a lot of people actually don't think about that. So one, there's you sell the bottles of wine that you produce there at the winery.
Right.
There's selling wine tastings, which we were just talking about. Those do cost money.
Right.
And a lot of times they are accompanied with food. And my favorite word in the English dictionary, charcuterie.
I don't know if it's English, but it is a word.
It's in the dictionary.
Sure. Okay.
It doesn't,
I love that. I'm feeling the love for it though.
Give me some charcuterie. Cheese crackers, please.
Yeah.
No, but a lot of these vineyards now actually have restaurants on property too. So you can do a little wine tasting, then you can hit up one of their restaurants, and they have really cool, critically acclaimed chefs, all kinds of great stuff. So that's another way to bring in money. Hosted guided tours. Again, some of these wineries store the casks underground, so they'll take you near there, or some of them who do the fermentation in the big silver, they're like silver, aluminum vats. So they'll take you in there. You can walk around and see all of those, and it's really, really cool.
Yep.
And then lastly, I think something else that people don't think about is renting out the event space. I know when I was looking to plan my wedding, I was dead set on getting married at a vineyard because I was surrounded by the things I love the most, grapes.
Yep. Wine.
And wine.
Yep.
I don't need the husband part. So anyone want to get married, just marry yourself in a vineyard.
Yeah, just go, or you could just throw a party at a vineyard. Don't even need to get married.
Yeah, you don't even need to have the wedding part. Just do just a Tuesday party.
Exactly.
Write that down. Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, there's lots of different ways that vineyards can bring in money. I actually just recently went to a vineyard in California, and one of the ways that they were bringing in money is having concert. They were having like a concert series during the summer. So they're selling tickets. And of course, when people are there, they're listening to live music, they're buying wine. So it's a great way to drive up sales. And you can really get creative with it.
I think that's really cool. So we've also seen a rise in consumer demand for unique, locally produced alcoholic beverages, which has driven the expansion of craft wines. We can get into those a little bit later, or down some dirty rabbit hole. Distilleries and meaderies. So I think it's really obvious here in Arizona about this. So you typically don't think of Arizona as a hotspot for alcohol production. At least I don't.
Yep.
You think of California, Oregon, Washington. Those are like the three in the United States that people like when you say, domestic wines, that's exactly what they think about. However, we've seen so many local distilleries, wineries, and meaderies pop
There you go.
Up and over. There we go. The past few years. In fact, according to a study done by the Arizona Department of Tourism in 2023, the number of wine producers in Arizona has increased by nearly 10 times since 1999.
It's pretty cool.
I think that's way cool.
Yeah, definitely seeing more of that pop up. I actually just went to Sonoyta recently.
Oh yeah, I've seen their bottles.
Yeah, there's lots of wine there. Wilcox is another place where there's lots of wine popping up. So it's pretty cool. So let's get into the details here. Why would someone be interested in investing in a vineyard besides,
your love of
you just love it? There is a potential for land appreciation. We know that vineyards require certain climate and environment in order to grow the grapes. So it's a finite resource. For example, in Napa Valley, which is the prime, vineyard place, there's land there that can sell between $400,000 to $1 million per acre.
Yeah.
And if you think about how big a vineyard is, that adds up really quickly.
Yes.
And that's only expected to rise in price because there are already, big players that have staked claim to the land in Napa. So the land is a finite resource. Yeah. Additionally, we've mentioned the multiple streams of revenue. This is really helpful, especially when a growing season doesn't go according to plan, because vineyards can generate income in different ways, which can be really helpful. But probably the biggest benefit here, which you've touched on, is the ability to mix personal interest and passion with your financial goals.
Exactly. That goes for vineyards, meaderies, and distilleries. It can be really rewarding to invest in something you personally are interested in.
Yep. Totally.
That's why some of these winemakers got started is they loved it. And then now they're huge, big names and we probably never know their origin stories, which again, history and doing research on that is always fun for me. Another thing to consider with vineyards is the high demand for premium or collectible wines, which we talked about in a different episode. Investing in a vineyard that is able to sell bottles at high margins means higher profits.
Yep.
Again, if you can get a bottle of wine, get it scored, you got a 100-point wine, you're selling that bad boy to investors all over for a good chunk of change, right? And there's also opportunity to invest in some emerging wineries across the United States, like Arizona, Idaho, New York, New Mexico, all kinds of places are trying to get into this wine business. But it gives investors an opportunity to get in early and recap the benefits as these markets grow.
Speaking of growth, I want to bring up meaderies, which are expanding in popularity pretty rapidly. Yeah. If you don't know what mead is yet, you'll soon know because it's becoming trendy. It's an alcoholic beverage that's made from fermenting honey and water and yeast, and it's actually also known as honey wine. It also has like some medieval origins, which is kind of cool. So you'll see it pop up at like Renaissance festivals, which is funny.
I like that.
But nevertheless, it's growing rapidly. The global mead market is expected to reach $1.39 billion by 2032. Jeez. And is growing at a rate of 11.33 year over year. So you can see huge growth potential here. Mead is now produced in over 45 U.S. states, reflecting the rise in domestic interest. There's a consumer demand here that's playing into this. There are craft beverage enthusiasts and health-conscious consumers that are kind of meeting in the middle of our Venn diagram, and they are attracted to mead due to its natural ingredients and low sulfites, which is pretty cool. Also, pop culture, fantasy novels, historical TV shows has increased in interest in mead. If we're thinking, Game of Thrones was on many years ago, but now we have House of the Dragon, which is on now.
Don't remind me, next season hasn't started.
It hasn't started yet. But also, there's like very popular A Court of Thorn and Roses, that series. So we see that that's popping up in pop culture, which is probably also contributing to the interest in it.
That's so funny. So one of the most well-known U.S. mead producers is Schramm's Mead. I went down the thing I do best, research and rabbit holes. I got down a very weird rabbit hole when I was looking up Schramm's Mead the other day. I was like, okay, we got to focus center back here. So it was founded in 2012. based in Michigan. So it specializes in fruit-infused meads. So it generates 1 million to 5 million annually with strong direct-to-consumer and retail sales, which is awesome because, again, a lot of times you could really only find mead in like the fancy or no, they're not even fancy. Sorry. Like the weird crafty.
Yeah, it's like a little remote.
I call those types of bars slap the mint bars. Because the bartenders have to, if you ever go to like a craft cocktail bar and they slap the mint like 500 times, I'm like, just put the damn thing in my drink. I'm going to flick it out anyway. Stop slapping the mint. That's where you find mead. So I call them slap the mint bars. Because it's like, and it's hard because you appreciate the craft, but like, I'm like, just put the meat. That's where you used to find meat in the slap the mint bars.
Yeah, like
you'll
the
never
hipster
forget
bars.
it. Yeah, like hipsters bars. So we know that there's huge expansion potential here.
Yep.
There is a real opportunity to benefit from first mover advantage. Who will be the next meadery to compete with Strom's?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who will be?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Investors stand to benefit from a market that is expected to explode.
Yeah, absolutely. If you get in with the next competitor, you could make some good money there.
Yep.
So what about distilleries? We mentioned them. We haven't covered them yet. So let's jump into distilleries.
Okay.
The craft spirit market is also expanding. It's expected to reach $117.37 billion by 2030. This is driven by, it's staggering, driven by demand for premium whiskey and tequila.
Yeah.
There's an increase in active distilleries. There are 3,069 craft distilleries in the U.S. in 2024. That's up 11.5% from 2023.
Yeah, and every time I turn on the television or see an ad, I feel like a new celebrity is creating a new line of alcohol.
Yeah.
It
does feel that way.
I'm like, man, okay. Some of them are really good. Some of them not so good.
Sure.
Personal opinions, of course. Anyone who loves these, please, I don't want to throw hands or anything. You can buy me a cocktail because, like I said, I'll drink anything. So Kendall Jenner, for example, she has 818 tequila.
Yep.
Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston did Dos Hombres Mezcal. Dwayne The Rock. He's got Termana tequila.
Yeah.
And then probably one of the most famously launched one was by George Clooney. We see that man's beautiful face everywhere for Casamigos.
Hard to resist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, Casamigos sold to Diego for $1 billion in 2017, showing high exit potential for those premium bands.
Yes.
Because they were getting snapped up.
Yes. Very interesting. And that brings up a good point. With some of these spirits, there's potential for acquisition interest. Large beverage corporations are actively trying to acquire successful brands, and that could lead to a big payout as if you're an investor. There's also direct-to-consumer sales. So like anything, the internet has really expanded sales and has made these subscriptions-based whiskey clubs or even other sorts of spirit clubs available to people all over the U.S. They can get whiskey delivered to their door, have a tasting, and this increases investor opportunities as well.
Yeah, because you're exposed to different whiskeys that probably wouldn't have bought in the grocery store.
Yeah, in the first place.
Liquor store or wherever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've seen those clubs online. I think they're really cool. I don't know enough to drink that much those kinds of spirits. I like a good cocktail, glass of wine, but like I don't need to sit there and be like, this one's
drink
got
whiskey neat,
toast of honey. I'm like, this is great. That's all I got.
Yeah.
So how do you start investing then?
Good question.
The options for investing in a vineyard, meaderies, and distilleries mirror the options for investing in farmland, which we did an episode on. So one of these options is direct ownership.
Sure.
Again, we talk about hands-on, hands-off kinds of stuff, but this is a really cost prohibitive and not typically feasible for the average investor.
Right.
And that's because there's a lot involved with that.
Yes.
So there are sometimes opportunities for venture capital or an angel investing, however, but again, that's usually out of reach for the average investor.
Yep.
More people are investing through crowdfunding platforms, WeFunder and Start Engine
Mm-hmm.
are two that allow fractional ownership. And again, those normally have lower minimums to invest. So always keep that in mind.
Yeah, exactly. And we're seeing a rise in investing through crowdfunding platforms, not just in alcohol production space, but in general. One very successful company or example of a company that was able to attract an overflow of investors through crowdfunding is Cotswolds Distillery. They're actually an English distillery. It was founded in 2014.
Hence the weird name.
Hence the weird name. Yeah, doesn't it sound English? But their 2018 crowdfunding campaign made waves after they surpassed their $2 million euro goal in just 1 week on a platform called Crowdcube. And they met their funding goal with 571 investors and were actually overfunding that. So accepting overflow of money.
Wow.
But this wasn't their only successful crowdfunding push. They've actually have several others that they've done since then. And this has helped expand their operations, renovate their visitor center and hire additional staff, and just help them expand their business overall.
That's awesome. So
We got to talk about the risks now.
yeah, I know.
I knew what that so was.
Yeah.
So we got to talk about risks. Your favorite part. Number one, climate risks. Could have seen this one coming, right? Just like farmland, there are climate risks that are involved. Unpredictable weather patterns, climate change, droughts, wildfires, anything that could possibly happen to affect the things that have to grow in order to produce the actual beverage. That could be a risk. Also, regulatory hurdles. Alcohol licensing and evolving regulation about the production, distribution, and direct-to-consumer sales is a factor to consider. Some of those things are changing. Recent policy shifts have seen some states increase the taxation actually on alcohol products, which can, of course, eat into your profits. What are some other risks?
Well, there's always, economic cycles. So alcohol production and sales can be affected by economic downturns. During time of economic hardships or recession, people tend to cut back on luxury or non-essential items, which could negatively impact the sales of premium wines, spirits, and other alcoholic products, aka they're drinking the well. They're drinking the well, that $2 chuck. They're not going to spend the extra money to get the name brand.
Stuff, yeah.
And we're currently seeing this reflected in the whiskey sector, actually. In 2024, American whiskey sales fell 1.8% in volume, according to the Distilled Spirits Council of the United States.
Yeah.
So, and another risk would be just changing consumer preferences. Alcohol sales are influenced by consumer taste and, again, what's popular.
Right.
So younger consumers are shifting towards those ready-to-drink cocktails and non-alcoholic beverages. I've seen a lot of non-alcoholic liquors coming out.
Beers, wines,
Beers, wines. I've tasted rum, gin that tasted like perfume. It was super foul. They're still, working on that recipe. But
Some are better than others.
Yeah, some are much better than others. But those definitely are a trend. And if you go to a restaurant these days, the non-alcoholic cocktail section is growing.
It is definitely growing.
Because there's a rise of health-conscious drinkers, drinking trends just in general, such as low ABV and functional beverages.
Right,
So
exactly. Yeah.
keep those in mind.
Yes, definitely seeing that. But it's important to note that there's no investment that is without risk.
Nope.
There's never going to be an investment that's guaranteed. So this is just like any other investment in that way. Always going to be risks associated. So you have to evaluate the pros and the cons of the actual investment, preferably with a professional financial advisor, which we always suggest, and decide what makes sense for you.
Yeah.
Conduct research on location, regulations, and brand strength. Do your due diligence.
Yes. Do your research. Exactly. So consider investments with long-term appreciation and potential. Sustainable growth is something you might be looking for. So ask about that. But stay away from anything that screams get rich quick.
Yes.
Normally, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Take investing at your own pace. Again, this is not a DIY style to do. Seek professional help.
Yep.
Always, 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 always.
Yes, exactly. Well, that brings us to the end of our episode here. Overall, investing in vineyards, meaderies, and or distilleries can provide tangible assets and long-term value, potentially really great returns. And it can be a great way to mix your personal passions with your financial plans, which can always make finance more fun because sometimes it doesn't feel very fun.
It's not very fun sometimes. But I think I want to go look and see if there's any small wineries available.
Check it out.
You know, we want to make sure to assess risk, cost, and market demands before investing.
Yep.
I will do that. Don't worry. The craft beverage industry is growing rapidly, creating investment opportunities. So again, start looking now. You never know. Do your due diligence. It's extremely essential. Climate regulations and market demands impact returns.
Yep.
Don't
keep that in mind.
Forget.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll catch you on the next episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for more insight on our next episode.
And don't forget to subscribe to continue the alternative investments chat.
See you next time.
Content provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as professional, financial, or investment advice. This podcast should not be construed as an offer to sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy any securities. We strongly recommend that you seek advice from a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.